This presentation is to give an example of the type of structure that I use in my class and showing some selected examples of the objects that I use in my class. So firstly, I believe that structure is a very important part of any teaching, and so this is my weekly structure from last year. We had a 4-day schedule, and you can see that literally every minute of the week is accounted for. Now, we don't always follow this directly, but generally I would say 80% of the weeks we follow this schedule, and the agenda is written up on my board every day and I can go through it with them. And so I thought I'd just take you through what this looks like weekly. So every day starts out with a do now exercise. This is an example of a do now. Every do now begins with the vocabulary, and then the section over here, this is the section from last week, the previous week, and then these two up here are either prerequisites that we need to know for this week's lesson, or potentially things that are just been problematic. So in this particular example, this is a prereq. They'll need to be able to find the midpoint and distance to do some of the problems from this particular week, and special triangles I put on here because it has been a consistent problem. Second thing you'll notice is that for the first day of the do now, the first day of the do now packet, they have all the definitions here, and they're just supposed to draw lines between the columns to write them up. The next day and every day beyond that, they actually have to write the definitions out themselves. The final thing I'd like to point out about the do nows is you'll notice how similar they are day to day. Every day we have the same vocabulary words, we have the same type of problem here, 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 and here. The same types of problems, just different problems. Again, this repetition allows the students to feel very comfortable about these particular types of problems, and by selecting them appropriately and cycling back, so again, this is the week from last week, 2 weeks ago, and so forth. It allows the kids to cycle through and really make sure that they keep a handle on what they have learned as well as what they are currently learning. The day then continues with student-led review of either the do now problems or homework. At the end of every week, I give the students a packet of do nows and exit tickets and another packet of homework that is due the next week. So they have the weekend to have a look at that as well. And I always put this page, or a page that looks like this, at the very front. So this goes through and it says which day we're looking at and which exercise, so a do now or a homework, and which problem is we're talking about here, and then finally who's responsible for which period. So that way, for example, Jorge knows that on Monday morning he's going to be responsible for the finding midpoint and distance problem on do now 101. And therefore, Jorge has, on Friday, he can come in and see me before school, or at lunch, or after school, or Monday before school, and that way he has comfort in going to present in front of his group. It's a real incentive to get kids to know what's going on because they want to look good in front of their peers. Second thing I use for the student-led work is I use this rubric. These are the type criteria of how we grade. So were they prepared, organized, neat, and so forth, and then it shows just what good versus okay versus poor is. So I can quickly put their name and date up on here, circle what's going on, give them a total score. It takes very little time for me, and it gives them an awful lot of information about how they can improve their presentations going forward. Then we have class announcements. This is just an opportunity to take care of any bookkeeping stuff within the class. After class announcements, we go into new material. I only teach new material 2 days a week, and then the remainder of the week is spent making sure that the kids have a good understanding of that material. When my students are going through the lesson, I often give them guided notes. At the beginning of the year, I always do, and then towards the end of the year, I start pulling it away to hopefully have them learn how to take notes on their own. But this is what a guided notes looks like. It always begins with the date and the objective so that the students know exactly what is required of them for that particular day. Then we always have some vocabulary. These are the vocabulary words that are going to be used throughout the week. And then finally, we have some example problems. On this particular example of guided notes, we have 2 problems that we're going to learn on Monday down here, and then problems we're going to learn on Tuesday over here. You'll notice that each of the problems has a URL, and so this is so that if the students are going home that night for homework and they're having trouble, or they just forget how to do it, or reviewing for a test, or whatever, they can go and they have a series of problems and a series of videos of my providing solutions to those problems on the web, so they can go and look at them at any time. After I do new material, I'll often do what's called a finger quiz. A finger quiz is a quick way of my being able to understand that the students understand what's going on. It's a very informal assessment, so let me just take you through what that looks like very quickly. So what a finger quiz is I'm going to put multiple choice problems up on the board, and the students have to hold up the number of fingers that corresponds to the answer. And they hold their fingers in front of their chest so I can see it and no one else can, and that way I get a very quick ability to scan the class to determine if the lesson was understood, or if they understood the lesson, or if I need to go back and reteach. So here is an example of, or just some example problems of a finger quiz. So I'd show this up on the board, give them a couple seconds, and if they think the answer is not tangent, they hold up 1 finger, tangent 2 fingers. Once I go through it, then I can give them the answer, and we can go through it if necessary. Another example. And so that's what a finger quiz is. At the end of every class, I give an assessment called an exit ticket. Very quick little assessment to make sure that I understand that the lesson from that day was understood. At the end of most days, and certainly at the end of any day where we have new material, I give an exit ticket. This allows me a quick check to make sure that the students understand the material for the day. Here's an example of an exit ticket. Very quick, couple problems, shouldn't take more than 5-8 minutes. I then sit at the front of the room and have the students come up and show me the exit tickets, and I can check them off to know that they're done, and it gives me an opportunity to talk with the students who are still having problems and set a time for office hours or another time that we can get together to make sure that they know what's going on. Once a week, we do a group quiz. This is an opportunity to both practice the geometry skills we learned that week, as well as an opportunity to practice the skills of working within a group. I make sure that every group has at least 1 strong student in it and 1 developing student, and it is the job of the stronger student to make sure that everyone in his or her group understands what's going on. What I do is I collect 1 quiz from that group. It could be from the strong student or from the developing student or anyone in between. And then the entire group is based on, or the entire group's grade is based on that 1 quiz. And then to stop what often happens, which is that the strongest student just does all the work and has the weakest students copy them down, so that if I select one of their tests, they'll still get a good grade. If I see that's happening, then what I'll often do is ask one of the weaker students or developing students to come up on the board and show me how to do one of the problems that he or she got right. And if they can't do it, then I take points off in the quiz. So that's, again, strong motivation for the stronger students to be teaching the developing students in class. When I do the group work, every time I do group work, we go through an assessment. We go through a pre-assessment. And so I have 1 for each of the various values of our school. Our school had 3 values. One of them is orgullo, or pride. And so right here are what a group would need to do to demonstrate that they are advanced in the level of in orgullo or pride. And so what happens is I give them this rubric. There's the first page, there's the second page, and then we go through this. They need to, we have 1 for each of the values. They need to put on their name and the names of their group partners. And then we're going to do the pre-assessment. This is what I was just talking about. So here are the 3 different advanced levels for the 3 different values. And they need to read through these, and then prior to starting to work, they need to write down what it is that they would need to do to reach these values. The idea is that by doing that, it keeps it top of mind. Then we go through and do the group quiz. I wait 5-10 minutes, something like that, and then I stop everything. And we go through the first assessment. just they assess how well they've worked so far, they give themselves a grade, they give me some evidence, and they go back to their work. And then we do it again, and we do it again. And then finally, at the very end, I ask them to write a quick little paragraph, couple sentences on how they think their group did. The purpose of this, I don't even grade this, the purpose of this is that by every 10 minutes or so, stopping and having to think about what it is that causes a group to be in the advanced level, then it keeps that top of mind and hopefully causes the students to behave in that way.